So what was it like for you to have a budget to travel to all these nice places?
Yeah, it was very nice. And yeah, like you said at Northwest, I remember we had to like fundraise for some of our money to, able to travel places. And that was definitely something that I feel like brought us as a team closer. That lack of budget there kind of made the competition a little bit more fierce. Like, if I want to travel, then I got to make sure that I'm running fast times and putting up marks that the coaches see, I should be able to travel.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Oval Office, a podcast for track athletes by track athletes. We have been talking recently about a lot of the sprints, and it's been fun. I'm a former sprinter hurdler, so it's been enjoyable for me. But I think it's time for some longer content. I think we need to talk about the distance races, and I've brought in an old friend to talk about his experience, trying to make his way at a new university and find his way in a new state, actually. So, if you guys remember, we did a podcast with him a few episodes ago, talking about cross country and meet day playlists and such like that. So, if you guys remember, please welcome back Carson. Welcome back to the show, Carson.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So it's been a while since we've talked. What's been new? I mean, I know what's new, but what's
Yeah.
new?
Yeah. So kind of made a huge life change since I've last been on the podcast. But I transferred to the University of South Dakota up in Vermilion. So just trying to, I've had a semester to kind of get settled with classes, new teammates. Everything's just been kind of new. So the process of the transition has been really smooth, and I have a lot of people to thank for that. But I've been very blessed to have a good support system, a good team, and some great coaches around me. So yeah, I mean, up here just training, kind of right in the middle of the indoor season. So just training and getting classwork done. That's about it. Yeah.
hmm What's what's it been like up in the Dakotas? I mean, I guess you're not that far north from Nebraska, but is it that different from Nebraska or Missouri?
Um, Honestly, I mean, not really. Like you said, I'm only 3 hours away from Lincoln and 2 hours away from Omaha, so it's not anything too crazy. We did get like 14 inches of snow, so
Oh my
had to
God.
we had to train in I think we were inside for like 3 weeks straight, which wasn't very fun. Had to do a lot of treadmill training, which obviously isn't ideal for anyone, but other than, I mean, the extreme weather, there's not much of a difference.
Yeah, I don't want to go any further north than Northwest Missouri, so congrats
Yeah,
to you for dealing with that.
yeah.
What's it been like to be in Vermilion? I was looking it up and it kind of looks the size of Maryville. I might be wrong, but is how similar is it to Maryville?
Yeah, it's honestly, I mean, fairly similar. I think with school in session, the population of Vermilion's around 20,000. So it's a little bit bigger than Maryville, obviously not much, but I've enjoyed it here. There's some things to do. Like we go we have a movie theater which we go to sometimes. We'll spend time in Sioux City. It's like a 20-minute drive, so it's not anything too crazy, but really we just as a team, we just kind of find things to do on campus. Like we play cards almost every night, so we just kind of try and find things to keep ourselves busy. And a lot of us are starting to get busy with schoolwork, so some of that free time's not as much as we usually have. But I would say the towns are pretty similar. I'm not gonna lie, I like Vermilion a little bit better than Maryville, but that's just my opinion.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you at all. How are you meshing with the team? I know you were pretty close with the team at Northwest. What's it been like to have a whole new family?
Yeah, it's been I'd say it's been a pretty good transition. I was pretty close with a lot of the guys, and even like the track team at Northwest. I felt like as the season progressed last year, I kind of got closer and closer to especially the people on the track team. So it was definitely hard leaving a lot of those relationships behind. And not, leaving them behind. I still talk to some of the guys on the team, some of the people on the track team still, but the transition to the new team, new family, it was pretty smooth. Like I said, a lot of people to thank for that. I think my Coach Five, made that pretty easy. He kind of welcomed me in with open arms, and I think that he kind of set the example for the rest of the team. So we have a really good relationship as a team. We all kind of live together in some capacity. We spend a lot of time with each other outside of practice. And so that's been really fun. And as far as the track team goes, it's a little bit bigger than the track team at Northwest. So, you know, some event groups aren't really like as close. I still feel like I don't know everyone quite as personal as I did at Northwest, but that'll come with time. And a lot of the people on the track team are very supportive too. So that's been really nice to kind of come into with a little bit of stress, not knowing what to expect. But
What was the motive behind you transferring from Northwest to South Dakota?
yeah, so I think last year I was kind of at a place mentally and emotionally where Northwest wasn't the right spot for me, if that kind of makes any sense. I was dealing with a lot of things, off the track and away from, competing and everything like that. And I think, when people transfer into sport, I think it's easy to say the reasoning was the sport itself, but I feel like that couldn't be more opposite with my story because, like I said, I had a really good relationship with the team and loved Coach Wick and Coach Nicky and Coach Masters. And, I still have a lot of love for them. I still support them. And so I don't think, I mean, it didn't have anything to do with sport, but just kind of had to make a make a decision to kind of better my life and kind of my situation going on there. And luckily it turned out to be a right decision. So
And that was going to be my next question. If you feel like transferring from Northwest to South Dakota was the right decision for you.
yeah, I mean, it definitely was a tough decision. I remember a lot of phone calls to my parents, to my friends back home, just like, what do I do? Like, I love half of my life here at Northwest, and the other half kind of sucks. And so it was definitely very hard, and it took a lot of time to kind of make that decision. But I think once I did, it was kind of like a weight off my shoulders, which was really nice. And um, the decision to come here, I think there was a lot of factors that played into that. And the team and the coach being, a lot of the majority of that. So I kind of knew once I got on campus, I just felt comfortable. I felt at peace with the decision that I made. And I knew that there wasn't really any going back after I had made that decision. So I kind of felt peace with that. And luckily, with God and with the right people around me, it was a good decision. And I've been very happy with it. So.
Mhm. And you were talking about your support for all of the coaching staff at Northwest, as well as your admiration for the coaching staff that you have now. So, what has the difference been between, the program, the coaching, the team,
Mhm.
between Northwest and USD?
Yeah, I think the big thing that stuck out to me right away was definitely the size of like both the team and the coaching staff. At Northwest, like we had a pretty big team, but like the coaching staff, we only had four coaches. And so, you look at a team like Pitt State who has four coaches just for their distance team, and it's like that's tough to compete with. And Northwest obviously did a really good job of competing with that. I think the size of everything was the difference. In terms of like philosophy and stuff, Northwest did a really good job of like making sure everyone felt included and making sure everyone, like Coach Nicky always said, it's a family, and that was definitely something I felt at Northwest. But and with here, I think our coaches do as good of a job as they can of trying to make sure everyone feels like a family. Obviously, when you've got 100 kids on one team and practicing at different times and racing in different meets, it's kind of hard to find time to kind of mesh with everyone. So I think they do as good of a job as they can with that. But Yeah, definitely the size stuck out to me right away, which was pretty interesting.
Mhm. What's it been like for you to switch from, an MIAA team, a D2 team to the Summit League and a D1 program? How different are the two programs, I guess?
Yeah, I think in terms of like skill and level of competition, as a conference overall, the Summit League and the MIAA are pretty comparable. The MIAA's got some dogs in a lot of events, and so um, it's one of, if not the best conference in track and field in Division Two. And as a Summit League, I mean, there's definitely very good athletes in it. Like I think in the pole vault there was three or four athletes from the Summit League that made nationals. There was a couple guys that made nationals in the 800. So like, there's definitely some really good competitors, and so I think, um, as far as conferences go, they're pretty similar. And as far as like the Division One, the Division Two, really the big difference to me that stuck out was like the budget of both divisions. Like, being at Northwest, it wasn't a secret that, we didn't have just money to spend, and whereas South Dakota, again, we're not just drowning in money here, but like we have a lot of support from the university, and we were able to travel to a lot of cool meets this year, and we actually got to fly out to Oklahoma for our regional meet, which was really fun. That was a fun experience. And so I think the budget is just like bigger here, and um, because I mean, in track and field, especially, like the difference between competition is like, I think there's a lot of Division 2 athletes that could compete at the Division 1 level and compete at a very high level at the Division 1 level. So, as far as like competition, I don't think there's much of a difference.
Mhm. And that was going to be one of my questions as well. The Does the difference between D1 and D2 matter to you? Like you said, the competition can be very similar, but it's the idea of the budget. Did the classification of USD matter in your decision to transfer?
I don't think it was like oh, if I can't go Division 1, then I'm not going to compete or anything. Like I, obviously the Division 1 appeal is very interesting to me, and it's appealing. But like when I was in the portal, I still talked to a couple Division 2 teams. I talked to um, there was a Division 3 school in Lincoln that I talked to a little bit. So I don't think Division 1 was like, you know Division 1 or bust. Like it wasn't the end all say all for me, but it was definitely like, if I have that opportunity, then that's going to be something that I'll definitely look into, and if it's the right opportunity, then I'll for sure take it.
Hmm. And the budget was huge because I remember when I was on the team and while you were as well,
Mm-hmm.
traveling and finding hotels and trying to get people in places with the limited amount of money that we had and doing a lot of other stuff with our limited budget was difficult. So what was it like for you to have a budget to travel to all these nice places and even go down to regionals and compete at that meet?
Yeah, it was very nice. And yeah, like you said, at Northwest, I remember we had to like fundraise for some of our money to get able to travel places, and that was definitely something that I feel like brought us as a team closer. And I feel like at the same time, that lack of budget there kind of made the competition a little bit more fierce. Like, you know, if I want to travel, then I got to make sure that I'm running fast times and putting up marks that the coaches see. I should be able to travel. But with here, it's nice that that budget isn't always something that we have to worry about. And like, it's not something that is gonna make or break a performance or make or break a team going to a meet or anything like that. And I really liked, we have a pretty big women's cross country team, and so it was nice that they were able to take a majority of those girls to a lot of our meets, and that they all got the opportunity to compete, because there's 23 girls on our team, or 25, something like that. And when you only can run 10 at conference, it kind of makes a season for an athlete who's not running at conference pretty short. And so with the opportunity to run at bigger meets and to run at more meets, it's kind of nice to be able to see all them compete. And same thing goes with the men's team. We're not as big as that, but again, if you're not running a conference, that season's kind of short, so it's good to get as many meets in as you can.
Hmm. Do you feel like having the D1 status or having the budget to take as many people as you want to travel meets, do you think that hinders the performance or competitiveness in your team?
Um, I don't think in our team. I think we're still pretty competitive. I think the men's team, especially, we were really, really young this year. We had in our top five at conference, we had two sophomores, two freshmen, and a junior. And we only returned like from the previous year to this year, we only returned three or four athletes on the cross country team. And so a lot of us were new and a lot of us were pretty young. So I think the element of competition there was like we didn't really need the aspect of a budget to help us compete a little bit harder. We kind of knew like we got to come out and kind of prove ourselves, and we're young, so we got a lot of time to make up for that. So the thought of, oh, I might not be able to race at this meet because we don't have enough money to go to that meet was never really a thought. It was more like I need to make sure that I'm competing well and competing hard enough so that the coaches are like, hey, let's take him to this meet and let's let him compete in this one.
Mhm. And let's talk about that performance aspect, I guess,
Yeah.
and move a little bit personal to you. Uh, Transferring you sometimes it makes you question whether your training is going to be the same, if your results are going to be the same, it's going to be better. But for you, it seems like your PRs have definitely dropped. Some you're doing well. Congratulations to
Mm,
you. Um,
appreciate it.
but it seems like you're also taking more of a leadership role on this team from an outsider's perspective.
Mm.
So what's it been like for you training differently and seeing your times drop? Like how are you feeling at this point in the season with your times?
Yeah, I think with where I'm at right now, I feel very fit and feel ready to. I always feel ready to race. Like it's never been like a well, I'm kind of tired. Maybe we don't race this weekend. I always felt just excited to race and excited to have that opportunity. And so right now I feel pretty fit. Was able to drop a pretty big PR on this last weekend in the mile, which was nice, and it was on a 200 flat track, so got the conversion. I think with the conversion, it was like 4:17 for the mile, which obviously there's a lot of room to grow there, and definitely not where I want to be right now. But I think with time and with more training, that time can get down pretty low. So definitely excited. And one thing for me, it's like having to trust my coach a lot, and having to trust myself and my training, and knowing that I will be ready come meet day and come towing that line. So um, and that's something that has taken a little bit getting used to, just kind of this new program and new coaching staff, but they've treated me well. They've given me good training, and I have all my trust in them right now. So I'm really looking forward to competing more.
Mhm. You were just talking about your new PR, and it was also your first collegiate win. Walk me through that or that event. Sorry, walk me
No,
through
you're
that
good.
race and what it was like for you.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. The night before we raced the 1,000, and it was to my standards, it was horrible. I was very, very upset with how the race went. I feel like I didn't um, run how I wanted to. And so kind of like going to bed that night, I was like, okay, like we gotta come out tomorrow and kind of get um not really redemption, but like get a good time going again. So I was very like eager and just honestly angry to get race again. I was just like ready to go. And so um kind of going into that meet, that race at least, I felt like I was really in my head. And so one of my teammates, Pierce, was actually like right as we were on the line, he came up and gave me a fist bump and was like, bro, just get out of your head, like just go race. everything will work out the way it's supposed to. And um, the gun went off, and I felt pretty good the first 400, and then felt pretty calm the first and the next 400 going into 800. And so I think I took the lead with about 600 left and kind of just picked it up from there and was able to hold on. So it was a good win. I felt like I competed well, and that's kind of what we were looking for. We obviously knew with a 200 flat track, and honestly, our track isn't the best surface. We knew that the time wasn't probably going to be very fast. And so we were really just looking to compete against a good school like Creighton. So I was very fortunate to come out with the win.
It looked like you were, cruising that last 60 meters or so, and you looked back like you were trying to figure out where everybody was. Were you at all tired coming into the home stretch?
I mean, I was definitely tired. I wasn't like about to hit a wall and fall down and throw up everywhere, but I was definitely tired. I honestly looked back to see if I was able to like slow down a little bit and just kind of calmly cross the line. But I looked back and saw three Creighton guys right behind me, so I was like, "Oh, we better pick it up a little bit coming into the last stretch." So um, I was definitely tired. I wouldn't say that I was just cruising, but it was a good race.
And I mean, you said that, D1 doesn't matter, D2 doesn't matter to an extent, but how exciting is it to know that you're competing against D1 athletes and, beating them?
Yeah, it feels pretty good, and I feel like coming from the Division 2 level, I think a lot of times Division 2 kind of gets overlooked. So being able to be a Division 2 athlete, now a Division 1 athlete, and competing with them and in cases beating them, it feels pretty good. And it just goes to show that like no matter where you start, you're always going to be able to compete. And you're always, if you're good enough, then you know the competition will show. And so it's been really nice to have that step up in competition and be able to prove myself at that level.
Mhm. And you're gonna have your first indoor Summit League championships in about 3 weeks, and you have a lot of meets in between.
Mm-hmm.
And you were saying earlier that you're not really where you want to be. What do you feel like you need to work on, or where do you want to become conference championship season?
Yeah, I think one thing is getting mentally focused for bigger races. I think in the past I've struggled with letting the big races kind of get into my head and kind of hinder performance. So I think just getting ready for that mentally, and then on the physical side, just continuing to work hard, continuing to develop a little bit more speed endurance, especially in that mile. You need a lot of speed endurance to compete in the mile there. So I think just continuing to work on that, working in the weight room. I think, like you said, I think we have 3 or 4 weeks until the Summit League Championship. So I have no doubt by then that I'll be ready to go and ready to compete. So I'm looking forward to it.
Okay. How different is the weight room or weight program at USD compared to Northwest?
Yeah, the weight room itself, you know this better than anyone. The weight room at Northwest wasn't anything too crazy.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
we had the weights, and that's all that matters. But it
Yeah.
wasn't anything too crazy. But the weight room at South Dakota is very very nice and very. I've been very lucky, very very fortunate to work out. At. We lift about twice a week, which is pretty similar to what we did at Northwest.
Mhm.
Um, I think honestly the lifts are pretty similar. We do a little bit more like Olympic lifts than we did at Northwest. When I was at Northwest, and I don't know if it's changed this year or not, but we did a lot of like body weight and almost like stretching with weight, if that makes any sense. Like
Mhm.
it wasn't like we're gonna go in and back squat or deadlift or bench press or anything like that. And we don't do a lot of that here at South Dakota, but we still try to back squat about once a week. And then typically Monday is going to be like our heavier day, and then Wednesday will be a little bit lighter, more like a recovery lift. So I would say it's pretty similar to Northwest, other than kind of that Monday we do go a little bit heavier. So
Okay. And um, harking back to what you were saying about mentally preparing for, a big meet, what do you do, or what do you feel like needs to be done to prepare yourself? Because there's a lot of athletes that struggle with the mental part of track and field, and I was definitely one of them. I never could figure out what I needed to do
mhm.
mentally to get right. But what is it like for you, or what do you feel like is going to work to get you mentally ready for races?
Yeah. I think something that works for me is I put I'm very big on my faith, like with God and with Jesus, and so I think um, what something that's helped me recently is just knowing like if I have a bad race, I have a bad race. God's not gonna love me any less the time that I run. So there's definitely been a lot of comfort and peace in finding that and finding that you know my relationship with God is still going to be strong if I perform well, if I don't. So I think something that's helped me is just kind of giving up a lot of the pressure and a lot of the nerves that I have to God and just saying and then just praying about it and that finds a lot of peace for me and I think so just continuing to do that and just continuing to know that like bad performances are going to happen once in a while and it's about you know bouncing back from those is what kind of separates the great athletes from the good athletes. So I think just focusing on the wins and the lessons learned and the losses and just moving forward.
Mhm. Well, I think that's all the questions I have for you.
Yeah.
Man, it's crazy to think that you're now a D1 athlete. Like that's amazing, man. Can
Yeah.
we can we give you some claps for that? Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, sometimes I still try to wrap my head around it, but
But yeah, that's awesome. Definitely continue to be a leader on that team. Like I I want to give my props to you. Like I see you working and everything. You've always been such a hard worker and passionate teammate towards everybody else. So I'm glad that you're starting to get where you want to be, or are slowly making bounds towards where you want to be. So
yeah, I appreciate that.
yeah. But you got anything else to say to listeners, viewers about anything we talked about?
I don't think so. Do you know when is Northwest competing this week?
Yes, they have the big 3-day meet. What's it called? The
Oh,
Bearcat Open. Yeah, so they won't be
yeah,
going
I think
to
so.
they won't be going to Nebraska like you this weekend.
Yeah.
So
I've seen some of the times that the distance crew's putting up and it's been crazy.
they're
They are
ridiculous. Yeah.
they are ridiculous. They've got a really good team over there. It's fun to see.
Yeah. They're also really nice guys.
Hmm.
I've had the ability to talk to them, and they they're a good crew. It's a good crew up there.
Yeah.
So
Yes, sir.
I
Yeah. They're all really nice. And I got to meet Nate Mueller a little bit.
mhm.
He's a really nice guy and obviously a very good runner, as you can tell by his times. I didn't get to meet, I think Maxime. Is that how you say that?
Everybody just
Their
calls him
800 guy,
Max. Yeah.
Max. Yeah, he it looks like he's been doing good, and obviously Drew is a really nice guy, and he's been putting up some crazy numbers this year. So it's fun to see
Yeah.
that as well. And Riley's been doing well too.
I'm excited to see all of them once they finally get into the shape that they want to be in, especially
Hmm.
Riley. I'm waiting for him to finally do what he wants to do, because
Yeah.
he's gonna be dangerous once he gets into
Oh
form.
yeah. Yeah, and I know I talked to him a little bit. He told me that he was injured all cross season, so I like you said, I'm excited to see what he can do when he's healthy and when he's got a full block of training under him.
Right, right. Thank you, Carson, again for coming on and speaking with us.